Following the events of Mustafar and the culmination of the Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker, now the Sith Lord Darth Vader, lost everything. Everything he did to try to save Padme from death had failed, as his journey to Mustafar not only resulted in his worst nightmare for her, but also left him permanently dependent upon his cybernetics to survive, a solitary confinement of the worst kind. While Sidious had gained everything, Vader was left with nothing. So then it must be asked, if Vader joined Sidious in the dark side to try to save Padme, why did he continue to be loyal to Sidious after her death, and once it was shown that he hadn't truly known how to save her? In this video expose, I will answer this question, and look at the moment that Vader decided to remain loyal to Sidious in both the former Legends material and within the current canon. Let's start with the Legends version of events. It must be noted first that had everything transpired as Vader wanted following his fall to the dark side, he would not have remained loyal to Sidious or continued forward as his apprentice within Legends. As early as the moment immediately following his execution of the Separatist Council upon Mustafar, Vader planned to overthrow Sidious. In fact, 4 weeks after his fall to the dark side, Vader deeply regretted the intervention of Padme and Obi-Wan on Mustafar, for had they not confronted him, Vader believed that it would be him sitting upon the throne on Coruscant as the galaxy's emperor, and not Sidious. But of course, Mustafar changed everything for Vader, and within the former Legends material, Vader was left to question where he stood in the immediate weeks following his defeat to Obi-Wan, particularly as it related to his loyalty to Sidious and his place as a Sith apprentice. In many ways, Vader recognized that he'd been duped by the Dark Lord of the Sith, with Sidious having won the war, the Republic, revenge for the exiled Sith, and the adherents of the Knight the Jedi Order had hoped would be their chosen one. And most importantly for our video here, Vader saw himself as merely a minion and errand boy of Sidious immediately following the end of the Clone Wars. So knowing all of this, what drove Vader to continue to serve Sidious and the dark side within the Legends material? The novel Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader shows exactly why Vader continued to follow Sidious despite having lost everything he'd hoped to gain by joining him. Although Vader would come to his own conclusions about the benefits in serving Sidious, his loyalty was again gained through the machinations of his master. Sidious recognized that after Mustafar, Vader's biggest weaknesses were psychological rather than physical. He'd lost the confidence that he'd once found so naturally, and most importantly, what was crucial to initiating Vader's training in the dark side. To ensure that Vader stayed loyal to him, Sidious understood that he had to instill two things within Vader. First, he had to get his apprentice to stop focusing solely upon his revenge against the Jedi survivors of Order 66. And second, he had to ignite Vader's desire to overthrow him, no matter how dangerous this was to Sidious's own position. This had been the way of the Sith for a millennium, as the master-apprentice relationship not only created unavoidable treachery, but also loyalty, as the apprentice became covetous of the master's power in the dark side. Therefore, to ensure that Vader would continue to loyally serve him after the events of Mustafar, Sidious knew that he had to shake Vader out of his despair and his belief that all was lost and reawaken the incredible power within him. And this is exactly as it played out in Legends. Although Sidious had Vader admit that he was continuing to live in order to learn to become more powerful through his master's teachings, it wasn't until Sidious sent his apprentice to Kashyyyk to deal with a group of Jedi survivors of the Purge that Vader actually learned to embody this belief and would cement the Sith Lord's loyalty to Sidious. In having defeated the Jedi Master Roan Shryn upon Kashyyyk, the first Jedi Master Vader would duel with in Legends after his duel with Obi-Wan, Vader stood above the defeated Jedi Master with a new understanding of his place within the galaxy. For the first time since Mustafar, Vader no longer felt the bloodlust for revenge against the Jedi. Master Shryn could have been anyone in the galaxy, as his Jedi allegiances no longer mattered to Vader. Not only that, but Vader felt the power of the dark side surging within him like he hadn't felt before, a power so strong that he felt invulnerable. Clearly, Vader had crossed a threshold into a new world, and he recognized that he could tap deeply into this dark side power. This had a profound effect on Vader, and just like Sidious understood, defined his path going forward, wherein he would serve his new master. Because Vader wished to become equals with Sidious and had become covetous of his knowledge of the dark side, he understood that he had to stay loyal to Sidious following Kashyyyk. Therefore, it was Vader's ultimate desire to learn everything Sidious knew and eventually topple him, the same desire that motivated all Sith apprentices to pledge their fealty to their masters, that prompted Vader to not only go on living after Mustafar, but to continue to pledge his loyalty to Sidious, despite losing his original motivations for joining the Sith. The reason for Vader's loyalty to Sidious following the events of Mustafar within the current canon is completely different than that seen within Legends. While Vader would use his desire to one day overthrow Sidious to keep living and remain loyal to his master in Legends, the reason behind the Sith Lord's loyalty in canon is much more tragic in my opinion. Vader's conclusion that he must stay loyal to Sidious happens very quickly in the current canon. Whereas it happened in a matter of weeks in Legends, it was only a matter of days in canon where Vader submitted himself to the dark path that would last for more than 2 decades. Similar to Legends, although there was a moment where Vader did decide to keep living immediately after the final moments from Revenge of the Sith, Vader's loyalty to Sidious wasn't actually solidified within the canon until Vader completed his first mission for the Dark Lord of the Sith. As seen within the recent Darth Vader comic issue number 5, having defeated and obtained the lightsaber of Jedi Master Karakin Phila, a survivor of Order 66, Vader was instructed by Sidious to take the lightsaber's kyber crystal to Mustafar so that it could be corrupted by the dark side, allowing Vader to obtain the weapon of a Sith. However, just as Sidious knew he had to get Vader to reclaim himself after his defeat to Obi-Wan within Legends, he also sent his apprentice to Mustafar to regain dominion over himself, wherein he could emerge strong, powerful, and unbroken. Once Vader got to Mustafar, he entered an ancient Sith cave on the planet that was a locus for the dark side of the Force, and thus the perfect place to make his newly obtained kyber crystal bleed. Vader then took the crystal out of the saber's hilt and started the process by which he would bend it to his will and corrupt it with the power of the dark side. However, Vader initially failed, with the crystal seemingly rejecting his first attempt to corrupt it. Having failed, Vader then had a terrifying moment in which he realized what he'd done and questioned his previous actions. The Sith Lord then allowed himself to have a vision of a subsequent path for his future. This path included Vader ceasing his attempt to corrupt the crystal and traveling back to Coruscant to show Sidious that he'd chosen a destiny that rejected him and the dark side. Within the vision, Vader and Sidious then engaged each other in a lightsaber duel, where Vader ultimately emerged victorious and left the Dark Lord dead on his office floor. Having murdered Sidious, the vision then saw Vader track down Obi-Wan, who was hiding upon an unknown planet. After removing his helmet and almost begging his former master for forgiveness, Obi-Wan was able to recognize the figure in front of him as Anakin, his former friend and apprentice. Upon hearing the name of his former self, Vader is then snapped out of the vision, enraged and driven by the power of the dark side. It's here that we see why Vader chose to remain loyal to Sidious within the current canon, despite having lost Padme and the initial motivations that drove him to the dark side. We then see Vader back within the Sith cave on Mustafar, this time determined to corrupt the kyber crystal with the dark side. But as he again begins the process, he says out loud, "No, I refuse. This is all there is." Therefore, we see Vader reject any possibility of trying to again walk the path of the light, or any desire to turn against Sidious. This motivation to stay loyal to Sidious in canon couldn't be more different than that seen within Legends. In Legends, Vader ultimately stayed loyal to achieve something greater. He had a long-term plan that would see him learn all that he could from Sidious and then overthrow him to gain dominance over the galaxy. However, in canon, Vader is merely loyal to Sidious because he knows that he lost everything and there's nothing else for him. Sadly, he understands that Sidious is all that he has left in the galaxy, and it's this knowledge that Sidious and the dark side is all that there is what drove him to remain loyal to the Dark Lord of the Sith following the events of Mustafar. This is a much more tragic realization for Vader in the current canon than in Legends. Although it still gave him something to live for, it was certainly an acceptance by Vader that he had lost everything he once loved, and his loyalty to Sidious and the dark side was the only path he had left. So there we have it, why Vader remained loyal to Sidious and accepted his path with the dark side after Mustafar, as seen in both the current canon and the former Legends material. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. Or perhaps follow us on Twitter at SW Reading Club for updates regarding the channel. Or support the channel through Patreon for access to exclusive hangouts and book discussions. If not for me... for Jedi Bloodlust.